a good group. No questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up on Maurice's response there. So how do you propose, do you have any kind of action plan that you've been thinking about? How do you propose to do that?
I have no action plan, honestly. I won't lie, like, I went through this probably, 6 years ago, after the campaign was done. I did what a lot of people before me have done, and I kind of went into myself, and I said, the best thing that I can do is try and make money and get myself into a position where I can empower other people, right? Because I watched my father and I watched a lot of people spend 30 or 40 years in the community and not get nowhere, but not get as far as they probably should have, right? So I said to myself, if I can become the best version of myself and then sit down and have that discussion. So I know a lot of people, I've had this conversation, are very judgy of that choice, but I take ownership for it, right? I sit down and said, this is the best that I can do right now. I don't have the money, I don't have the wherewithal, I don't have the business connections, I don't have any of those things, right? So while yes, there is work to be done, I'm gonna work on myself, and I'm gonna do as much as I can, and maybe when I'm 40, or maybe when I'm 45, I'll have the tools to do those types of things, because right now, I feel like I'm just, pushing on a wet road. But, so, it's not a good answer, but that is the truth.
Okay, let's have a final word from each of the panelists, starting with Craig. Final word on this morning.
Jamaica. In the final word for me, even though it's real, don't be afraid to talk. Just be open to listen to others and be open to share and be open to being a part of the change going forward. I think without just proper dialogue, first and foremost, we'll get nowhere. And again, we'll be here in 20, 30, 40 years going through the same things if we don't have at least the openness or willingness to have dialogue.
Mine would be support, for sure. You need to support what's going on in your community, whether you think what they're doing is right or regardless. There's not enough of us supporting each other, and we need to have these conversations within our communities that might be difficult at times, but extremely necessary. So I would say support, and just get out there. There are people doing amazing things across the city, like on their own time, not getting paid, just because we believe in this work. And I'll mention the festival that we're putting on tonight, only because we've been working on this for like a year. If you want to come, it's the Afro Prairie Film Festival from tonight to Sunday at Winnipeg Cinematheque, 100 Arthur Street. And honestly, this festival also came out of the work Winston Washington Moxham did, who was a pioneer Black filmmaker in Manitoba, and not enough people know his work. And he was ahead of his time, and we have an award named in his honor, so it'd be great to see you folks out there as well.
Just thanks again for having me, and just listen openly. I think that's what we don't do. Do a lot of talking and want to be heard, but I think just listening to each other is where we could start. And with that, thank you.
I'll just say 3 things for me: just mentor, unite, and support. That's all.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Wisha Strawn. I'm an associate professor in kinesiology and recreation management and part of the organizing planning committee for this event. And I was asked to just maybe give a few closing remarks and just kind of sum up some of the things I've been listening to and hearing, and I know a lot of things are going to be running around in my head today. That's for sure. As I'm sitting at my desk or I'm at home washing dishes, like, man, that was a good point. I'm going through things, so I really appreciate that. Maurice, we just talked a little while ago about how we really fail sometimes to celebrate things that happen in our community. And I have to say, Patricia, Maurice, Alexa, Craig, I'm so proud of you guys. Like, so proud of you. So, keep doing what you're doing. I'm a generation before you, just before you. And I know that when I see elders in the community, they still refer to me as youth, which I think is hilarious. So I'm going to refer to you as youth for the rest of your life, just so you know. You're always going to be the youth. And I just so appreciate learning from you. Like, I just love it. Like, it just gives me so much energy. So as I was thinking about what to just say at the end to wrap things up, I'm a researcher, so right away I think of what framework can I use. And I'm in sports psychology, so I remember reading a book when I was starting my master's that talked about these ABCs of sports psychology, and I like using them as a framework when I do some different talks, but the ABCs were apply, believe, and commit as an athlete. So I want to try to use those three just as I'm wrapping up. So first, in terms of apply, we talked about the challenging nature of the definition of the term leader, and when I looked it up, if you look up try and see what the Cambridge definition is, it's a person who's in control of a group. But then there's other definitions talks about a person who guides. So you're all leaders, whether you want to take that term or not. You're leaders in my book, and I think we all need to take control and show tangible examples of our diversity and our potential as well. We have to apply what we've learned in the past and apply lessons learned from our experiences growing up here in Winnipeg and elsewhere. And we also have to apply the lessons learned from our elders as well. And I know that I take those to heart. And whether we totally agree with everything that elders have done or not, when you mentioned folks like Ms. Watson and Mr. Atwell, there's so much experience and so much experience there that we have to learn from there, take their stories, take them to heart, and move forward from those stories. Second is believe. We have to have belief that we can reach our goals that we have for our community. Of course, setting those goals is a lot easier than actually doing them, but in terms of seeing the progress that we want to see, and we spoke a lot about having people in positions of power, local politics, education, advocacy, and in business, and those are important areas that I think we really have to look towards. We need to have belief in our leaders and those who possess those gifts of leadership. And we also need to believe in those younger than us as well and help them to come up and find what their talents and gifts are as well in terms of developing those leadership skills and qualities. And Maurice mentioned before that those stories have value, and we have to use those stories, and we have to also talk about those stories to our younger people. And last thing is commit. We have to commit to the long-term goals that we have. I take an ecological approach in a lot of my research, and it reminds us that development has to happen over time. It takes time for development to happen in a meaningful way. And so we need to commit to patience in the process, but we also have to commit to action as well. And I've heard this a few times, it's up to us really to be that change that we seek. And also thinking about how we're committing to using our gifts in the areas where our gifts lie. Not all of us are going to be in positions of power in politics. Not all of us are going to want to be business people, but we can use the gifts that we have and the passions that we have to be leaders in the areas that we have. So it doesn't feel like it's a push to be a leader. Alexa, so well spoken, has lots of passion for the area that she's in it. And she's doing it, and so it comes easy to her. Yes, it can be exhausting, but you know that it comes to her that way. Whatever in terms of your job, in terms of what you're doing in grad school, as soon as you're passionate about it, we can be leaders. So I think we have to figure out what those passions are, and we have to allow the young Black people that we know, even the people around us maybe aren't so young, find out what those gifts are and talents that they have, and use those in order to help progress what we have. So I love that Alexa mentioned using we as a community and not I. We have to do it together. It can't be one person. And the importance of fostering dialogue, which Craig spoke about. I did mention the Afro Prairie Film Festival here in terms of committing to goals, and we have a lot of people in our community who are doing fantastic things. So I appreciate that you mentioned Black Space, writing a letter of intent in terms of education, an educational strategy in terms of talking about issues for Black Canadians and Black history in schools. That is so key. I still remember doing a project when I was in grade 11, which was a long time ago now. But when I was in grade 11 and I went to the Winnipeg Public Library downtown, because there wasn't books in my own library at school, and I thought, the Winnipeg Public Library is going to have a ton. One book on Black Canadians and equality, Underground Railroad, something. And I remember thinking, that's the only book. Like, I had someone help me, and she's like, we have this one book. Really? So I know it's probably better, much better now. But those are some of the things, again, those key moments in your head that stay in your head. And I still did that project with that one book. And I did well, it's fine. I also think back to my own personal experience as well. I have a brother who's a musician. As soon as you hear musician and Black person, you think right away, oh, they're cutting beats in the studio. And my brother's a classical musician. He graduated, with a degree in piano performance and viola here from the University of Manitoba. Went on to do a master's in orchestral conducting, so he's a conductor. And he did a session a couple weeks ago at McNally Robinson for their classroom sessions for Black History Month. And he did a whole 3-hour session on Black composers, because that's where his gifts lie and his passions lie. So he has an orchestra that he puts together every couple of years in the city. They perform works from Black classical composers, many of whom we don't hear about at all, that the music is beautiful. Some who have passed away, some who are recent, and making lots of waves in classical music. And so, again, that's another example of committing to something that you enjoy and trying to be a leader in that area and trying to figure out how you're going to share your gifts and commit in that area. And that's only going to build up our community. So I think that's all I had. So those are the ABCs. I have to end with a quote from Maya Angelou, which is my favorite. But we may encounter defeats, but we must not be defeated. And we really have to think about that as we progress here in our community. So thank you so much for coming. And we have some gifts for our panelists and our moderator. So I want to thank Patricia, Maurice, Alexa, and Craig. So please give them a big round of applause. And I want to thank again the planning committee, particularly Ms. Valerie, as she's standing there, for bringing us all together, and for helping us, keeping us on track, and helping us come up with this idea. And we hope to work even more to do more things here on campus. And definitely, I hope that if anything, this really inspires you to really think, what are those gifts that I can use to help within our community, and no matter how small that is, it's always going to have an impact. We know that one drop has many ripples, and so we have to use that and do whatever that one drop is for you to bring ripples and positive things in our community. So thank you very much again. I don't know if there's anything else to say. And there's a movie.
We Are the Roots, February 28th from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Graduate Students Association Lounge.
Perfect, yes.
221 University Center. It's a movie about the settlement from the United States into the prairies of some
Black Canadians.
and the interesting things they've experienced. We have. And it's really well done documentaries from some folks in Alberta.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.